With the fireworks?
Yeah, but
Good afternoon and welcome to our last meeting of June. And we'll have a invocation tonight be given by myself and respect to the class will be given by Councilor Howland. Please rise. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, as always, for the blessings that you bestowed upon our community. We always ask you to look after our citizens as they go about their day-to-day. But more in particular, we're approaching our nation's holiday, 4th of July, and we ask that you give thanks and protection for the people who protect us. And we ask that you pray for our nation's leaders, our state leaders, as they deliberate and make policies for our entire nation. We ask that you bless this body as we make decisions that we deem to be right and justful for our city. We ask that you make sure that the people who are traveling this weekend, for our nation's holiday, that you keep them safe, that you protect people who are gathering in celebrations. We ask that you also take care of those in our nation, our community that are oppressed and disadvantaged in situations that they sometimes have no control over. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of our June 14th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
First by Dr. Thompson, second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of June 14th pass unanimously. We have 4 items of old business, and the first item is request second reading of ordinance 21-11 adopting the budget for the fiscal year 2021-2022. Ms. McCune.
Mr. Mayor and Council, it's our pleasure to present the 2021-2022 budget to you here on second reading. It's an $83.4 million budget, all funds included. There's no tax increase. It remains at 116 mils, and there's no service decreases either. So maintaining services, planning on an expanding community, and we're happy to present this to you on second reading. If there's any questions, Ms. Margo Martin, our finance director, can answer those for you.
Thank you, sir. We asked a few questions, I think, on the first reading. We dove into a lot of this on our retreat. I'll ask if there are any other questions or comments from council.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
The fact that this budget does not include any tax increase nor any reduction of services, that was achieved through growth. We have been in a growth period over the last several years, and for that reason, we're able to keep taxes the same without reduction of services. I applaud everybody here for that, and thank you for our finance department's hard work.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Margo. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? That's a good point. I noticed the city not too far away from us had their millage rate go up a little bit. I'm proud to say that we didn't, or we're not in a position to do
How many years does that make us without having a tax increase? I don't think.
We actually had
My 20 years, I've never had one.
a couple of tax decreases over the last 5 to 7
Five.
years. Sure have.
You're probably right.
$5 mil decrease at one point, then another $2 mil decrease most recently.
Well, Mayor, with that, I'll follow up. I'll move that we adopt this budget for.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Jeff Roberts, a second by Mr. Kyle Newton. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passed unanimously. On the second and final reading. Thank you, Ms. Morton, and your team.
Thank you.
Our next item, old business, is request second reading of ordinance 21-08, authorizing and providing for the issuance of special obligation bonds. It's a hospitality pledge of the city of Anderson. Mr. McCune.
So as we discussed last meeting, again, this is on second reading. The city passed a hospitality fee by ordinance 01-23. That's always in 2001. And the fee is equal to 2% of the gross proceeds derived from the sale of prepared meals and beverages sold within the city limits of Anderson. Just before you, A2 actually sets the stage for A3, providing the framework for being able to bond the hospitality fee, in particular for a bond issuance. So this sets the framework. It's a lot of legal bond attorney preparation in this, but it sets you up for 83, which is the actual issuance of the bond. But this provides the umbrella, the means to do it.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments?
Just curious, our ordinance 0123, where we passed the hospitality tax at 2%, is that a cap of 2%? Is that the most you
Yes,
can
sir.
do?
It's actually a state cap for 2%.
That's the max you can do?
Yes, sir.
I know it's been very good to us, and I'm just curious what the cap was.
Right. And the accommodations cap is actually 3%, but the hospitality is 2%.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I move that we adopt this bond ordinance request.
Second.
21.08.
Have first by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Dr. Thompson. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously on the second reading. Kind of pushes us to the third agenda item, which is request the second reading of ordinance 21-09, providing for the issuance and the sale of the City of Anderson Special Obligation Bond and the hospitality pledge in a principal amount of not to exceed $7 million to defray the cost of certain tourism-related projects. Mr. McEwen?
Okay, so A3, this is the actual issuance of the $7 million special obligation bond, which is in alignment with our budget and multi-year capital planning, and also with our strategic plan and Parks Recreation Master Plan, which includes moving ahead with phase 3 of the recreation complex, and different facilities that are a part of that, along with some other park and recreation amenities. And so with this, we do have some good news to report because the bids did come back quite incredibly good. We hit it on a good day. So I'm going to ask Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Marta Martin, to provide that additional information to you.
Okay, so yes, so we received 3 bids from banks on this borrowing. And we, as you remember, we budgeted 2.75% for $583,000 annual debt service. The bid is actually 1.99% for an annual debt service of $550,000, which over the 15 years will save us $497,000 in debt service than what we had projected on this bond issuance. So we are requesting second reading of this 2109 to provide for the issuance and sale of the special obligation bonds not to exceed $7 million.
Who's the financial institution?
Truist, which is BB&T and SunTrust merged to form Truist.
And they actually, even though they did it on the umbrella of BB&T, they financed our parking garage, but they were actually in the merger process at the time. Like I said, they're putting under the umbrella name now.
Very good. That's always good to say. Any questions? Any further thoughts?
Make a motion that we approve it on second reading.
First by Mr. Stewart,
Second.
second by Mr. Chapman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Fourth and final item of old business is request second reading of ordinance 21-10, authorizing the city of Anderson to execute and deliver an equipment lease purchase in amount of not exceeding $1.65 million between the city and the lessor thereof to defray the costs of acquiring certain equipment. Mr. McEwen?
So this again is included in your budget and your multi-year capital planning. It includes where we go out and we do a lease purchase, and you'll see the reason why in just a second, because very competitive interest rates came in on this. But for rolling capital equipment, that's usually in the dollar range of $70,000 or more, or we package things together, and we're able to do a bulk purchase and keep it on the books, and then it rolls off, and we do another one to say buy fire trucks. And it's a really good mechanism for municipal governments to be able to do this. And so, so the financing again is $1.65 million, and it's for several, 4 garbage trucks, 1 bucket truck, 1 flatbed truck. And I won't get into the details of that because following this in your new business is actually the details that request the purchase of the capital equipment. But this is the authorization of the borrowing. And Ms. Martin, if you would provide the really shocking good news on the financial side of the bid.
So we had 15 banks bid on our capital lease. Wow. Yes, because but the difference between the last one and this one is a lot of banks like the 5 to 10 year range right now, and some banks still are not lending money on hospitality. But they love this lease, and it was 15 banks. Bank of America won with 0.8806%.
Wow.
Or annual cost of $338, and we had estimated 1.5%. So again, tremendous interest rate for us. Fabulous time to borrow right now. And so we are requesting second reading of the ordinance 2110, authorizing the equipment lease purchase in the amount not to exceed $1.65 million with an interest rate of 0.8806% for 5 years.
I'll have to say, Ms. Moore, you might be able to, you're more lengthy tenure, but this is the lowest interest rate I've ever seen on a borrowing.
I've never seen an interest rate
I've
less
never
than
seen
1%.
this, so this is a really, it's always a favorable rate, under 2% usually on these, but this is really a good use of we want to do a bulk purchase of rolling equipment that's quite expensive.
We ain't got any more we need to purchase at this rate?
Right. I know. When interest rates go up, I'm thinking to do that.
Very good, thank you. Questions, comments?
Good. That we approve this?
First by Dr. Thompson,
Second.
second by Mr. Newton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Just curious, I think we've done some other lease purchases for other, maybe in the water, sewer, some other things that we've done. Is there a chance to go back and refinance what we've done at a lower interest rate, where we may have been at 6 months ago, where we at now? Just curious.
Not with the capital lease.
Okay.
Just because it's so short term.
It's such a short term, and the interest rate is so low, and then there's the stipulation is you couldn't prepay it till your 4th year, and you're in a 5-year lease. So not with this. Now, there's an opportunity if you want to do another request for proposals and borrow additional monies right now while the interest rates are low, but not to refinance.
Thank you.
If I might, do you know what the net savings of these two, the bond and this one, what the net savings to us was?
The
Or will be?
bond was,
550 or something, but
497.
hang on a minute. The special obligation bond over the 15 years, we're saving $497,000
Seven.
based on what we budgeted. I mean, you're still spending money.
right.
And then on the capital lease, we're saving $30,000 over 5 years.
So
Over $500,000.
excellent.
Just for the record, we have a first and a second, and it was unanimous, but
Okay.
forget who did. Kyle did.
Second.
Dr. Thompson had the
Motion.
Mhm.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Do we
Go
vote?
through some items when we're saving money, Kim. Old business was good. In the new business.
Thank you.
Consideration to purchase vehicle and equipment for the Public Works Division. McEwen.
Okay, so this is your lease purchase, providing the actual purchase, the procurement, the formal procurement for the each of the vehicles and equipment. With that, I'll call the experts up. Ken Molinax, Paul Warshrather, and his team will present this item. Mr. Molinax.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Mr. Mayor and Council, the Public Works Division is requesting for a purchase of capital equipment in the amount of $1,603,402 sanitation and signal and sign departments. You should have in your packets a description of the vehicles that we're purchasing and the equipment. I'll go through these briefly. The first item would be 4 automated side loader sanitation trucks. This would include 2 diesel engines and 2 Cummins compressed natural gas engine trucks in the amount of $1,223,724. We're recommending the purchase of a Ford F-650 truck dump body. This would also be for the sanitation department in the amount of $91,324. Then there's a New Holland compact wheel loader. This is for tractors that you see driving around picking up the trash, the debris, and those kind of things, the roadside items. Amount of $89,992. We've got a Rammer heavy duty trash trailer. You'll see those are the orange trailers that you see that we're loading up with the trash and debris. The amount of $36,813. And then we're requesting to purchase for the signal and sign department a Ford F-650 bucket truck in the amount of $161,242 for a total of, again, the $1,603,095. I'd be glad to answer any questions about those.
Thank you, Ms. Mullin.
Yes, sir.
Questions, comments? Mr. Stewart?
Just curious on the first 2 sanitation trucks. They had 2 diesel engines and 2 compressed natural gas. What was the difference in dividing it up like that as opposed to going?
Yeah, what we're thinking there is this will be the first compressed natural gas sanitation trucks that we've purchased, the city of Anderson's purchased. And we'd really like to get our feet wet with these to see. There is some good data out there for these vehicles. Waste Management, which is a $15 billion business out there, #1 in the country. They're about 70% of their fleet is currently running these CNG buses. We've had really good success. I mean, I said buses, I mean sanitation. We've had real good success with the buses that we have out there. So the idea is that as we extend out for the longer routes, we'll go with the diesels, and these CNGs will primarily service our routes that are really close by. The diesels, they need to, they'll need that for their regen process. And then these CNGs, they should do much better. We really want to get our feet wet with these 2 CNG buses, or trucks. I keep calling them buses, but they're sanitation trucks.
Thank you. Chairman?
But you think we'll see a $50,000 savings in the maintenance and the?
Yes, sir.
Because they're about $50,000 more.
From what we've seen with the buses that we're currently running, the maintenance is far less than the diesel process. Those diesels are really good long-haul vehicles. It's the short runs that get them. And we really feel like we're gonna save money. From what I think it was, we've had these buses on the road, 2016 models. So we've had those, and we've had real good success with them.
Good questions, comments, any other thing?
I have a comment. I can't stress enough the fact that we need safe and reliable equipment and ready to go when you need it.
Yes, sir.
Because you wake up one morning and something's not running, just think of what that does to your pickups and so on. So with that, I'll move that we accept this bid.
Second.
First by Mr. Jeff Roberts, the second by the Mayor Pro Tem. John. I'm sorry. John Roberts. Let the record state this gentleman to the far left, Mr. John Roberts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes now. Thank you, Ms. Mullen. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
One quick question. These garbage trucks, are they going to be replacing any, or are they going to be an addition to our fleet?
It's going to be about a year before we get these vehicles in, is what we estimate. At that time, we will be assessing whether we use those for parts. We've got 8 vehicles, 4 2006s, 4 2016s, and they're all the same brand, and it's getting harder to get parts for those. So either they will be sold or we'll use those for parts. But we'll know better in about 12 months from now where we are with those. We're not going to keep sinking money into them if they're not worth keeping.
But I guess as we continue to grow the city, does the need for growth of our fleet needs to increase as well?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And we've talked about that in their route evaluation studies. So we're planning on that.
Thank you.
The second item of new business is request consideration of a construction contract for the North Main Street Streetscapes project.
The Mayor and City Council, Assistant City Manager Andrew Shredden will present this item to you.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. What you have before you tonight is a request to award the bid for the North Main Streetscape project to AOS Specialty Contractors, Inc. As you can see, as you'll recall, we've had several work sessions with staff and City Council over the last several months to talk about design options, budgeting, that sort of thing for this project that really came up because of a public-private partnership and a redevelopment project initiated by the private sector at North Main and Calhoun. The work that is proposed in this contract and this bid amount will be done in conjunction with this project and because of this project. So really want to provide a nice gateway into downtown Anderson from the north, continue the downtown streetscaping. The bid amounts that you see here are broken down into a couple different base bid and bid additives, and I'll describe those real quick. The base bid that was put out is essentially the streetscaping on both sides of North Main Street, from Tribble to Calhoun, minus a section right in front of John Glenn's property, where AAA Supply, attorney's office, and then his office is located there on the west side of Main Street. And that also includes the plaza development as well. Bid additive 1 includes the streetscaping on both sides of East Calhoun between Main Street and McDuffie Street. Bid additive 2 was that small section of Main Street that I mentioned. That's John Glenn's property there. And then additive 3 is a parking lot located behind Kimbrell's, that common area parking lot that we talked about a few times, that has been batted around for several years. So staff's recommendation would be to award the base bid, which is the majority of the streetscape and the pedestrian plaza. Bid additive 1, again, that's Calhoun Street, and then bid additive 3, which is that parking lot. We do not recommend at this time awarding additive 2. If at some point in the future, Mr. Glenn desires to give right-of-way or easement, construction easement for that work, we could then approach the contractor to add that into the contract amount, but at this time, we're proposing to leave that out. The total contract amount would be $2,613,839. That is slightly over our budgeted $2.475 million, but we can cover that overages, or I'm sorry, we can cover that overage. This will come out of the hospitality fund. Staff recommends again approval for AOS Specialty Contractors. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Question.
Dr. Thompson, then Ms. Stewart, then Mr. Chapman.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
I mean, it's not all about price, but I ride through Main Street 2 or 3 times a day, just looking at the beauty of Main Street, the flowers, and all the things we've done to make this a beautiful city. So Andrew, I commend you and your group for working to make the entranceway coming down Main Street into the city. It's going to be beautiful. And that entranceway is going to add significantly to what we already have coming into the city of Anderson. So you've done a good job. And just ride through sometime and look at the flowers, the lights, and coming down, Calhoun Street and on down through that area. That's going to really be a great thing. So thanks for your hard work with that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the kind words. There's a lot of activity in that side of downtown. A lot of new businesses have cropped up and will continue to pop up. So it's exciting we can come alongside and help that out.
Ms. Stewart?
I know you said these two prices, the base bid and the additives are over our budget. And I think everything is coming out of hospitality to take care of this. And of course, when you go out of the budget and that affects other projects, it's going down the road that is slated for hospitality. So, and I guess it brings it back to the main question is that there was one bid received for this project. Sure. And I'm not familiar with AOS Specialty Contractors. Don't know if we've had any track record with them or not, but just, it's a lot of money to sink into, one bird. And I'd just like to be able to see what do we have from comparative. Have we thought about possibly rebidding it to see if we get something else to compare it to? And if it came in under budget, that's one thing, but when you come in over budget, a lot of times, I'll give you a high price if I get it. I've got a golden egg, but if I don't, that's okay as well. And just kind of concerned about, what it came in and nothing to really compare it to.
No, thank you for asking that, and I apologize I didn't mention that when I was speaking a second ago. AOS Specialty Contractors is the contractor that did the work at B. Thompson Park most recently for us. They are out of Lexington, South Carolina, a really good company. Our engineer on this project, Davis and Floyd, has worked with them several times on several different types of projects, streetscapes included, and speaks very highly of them. I'm with you. Typically, I get nervous when I see one bid come in. This was fairly close to what our estimated cost estimate from Davis and Floyd was towards the end of the project. It was a little bit high, but all things considered, not as high as it could have been given some of the other projects that we've seen.
But again, and I'm glad you brought that to my attention about the work that they've done recently. I think they're the same contractor that came over and did the stuff over in the D.B. Walker Park as well, with the shelters and stuff. The same contractor, and it's the same contractor that we had. I think our recreation department had a hard time getting back to come over to finish the job.
Well, they had their
poor quality workmanship.
They had a sub that used one of their subs for those shelters, if I recall, was the issue. We don't have any use for that sub.
And the concrete.
Yeah, we don't have any use for that sub for this project. So.
I think there was issues, like you said, with the concrete as well. They had to go back in and tear out some concrete under the shelters and do it and redo it again. And with them doing streetscape, which is concrete, it just raises a red flag with me to put all this money on when we've had a problem in the past.
Yeah, so one thing we're doing, because Andrew and I talked about this, is we're looking at their subs closely. And so we'll make sure it's not the same subs as the last time on those projects. And so we're working closely with David Floyd on that. And we don't sign this immediately once you guys actually approve this. So there's more work to be done still on that front as far as like them provide the detail of their schedule, contractors, and everything else. So once we have that, and if it was to come back and it was the same contractors, I mean, I would decline that and come back to you guys on that.
Mr. Chairman?
So some of my questions are similar to what Mr. Stewart's are, but first question was, how many people, I guess, looked at bidding the project?
We had, I believe, 3 total contractors. I think there were 5 on the pre-bid sign-in sheet.
I think we had 7 download plans and 5 pre-bid.
5 come to the pre-bid. Davidson Floyd regularly getting up to the last second, regularly getting questions from several contractors. I know one. I don't want to say the names of the contractors who they chose not to bid in the meeting. One recently was awarded a big project that took all their time, so they chose not to bid.
Okay.
Another contractor couldn't get their pricing in time to make the final list. So.
Because I'm always concerned when something goes out for public bid and we only get back one, because similar to what some people say, well, if I get it and I have to throw a number out, not that we don't appreciate AOS's bid, it's just it raises a concern.
Yeah.
So
with us too. Again, I get nervous when I see one bid. I think if they
there's no comparison unless it's a negotiated contract that we've done, like when we did the roof repairs on this building. It was a negotiated contract that was based on a set of specifications. The other thing was, have we considered any kind of value engineering of what the details are to get it back within budget? Because the track record of history of previous projects, especially streetscape projects and things like that, it seems like we always go over. Once the contract is in, there's a change order that applies throughout the project, and then the project even goes further over budget. So I'm just curious if we've done anything to maybe look at value engineering some of the materials or the details, and maybe it's not as nice as what we expected, but it would be maybe a little bit less that could get it back in line. Sure. And the average citizen's not going to know the difference from the overall design of it. So.
That's right. No, we haven't done any value engineering right now. To this point, bids came in Thursday afternoon, and we were quick to get it on the agenda for your consideration to help meet the schedule. There are some spots where we can absolutely value engineer, and I think we can easily make up that $183,000 overage from what we budgeted.
Okay. Because with that, then I would be interested in bidding up to that amount that we can value engineer it to get back in, because of, again, the items that we tend to go over, or we miss something that's in the site conditions or something that ends up throwing our projects over budget.
Sure.
So.
Any other questions, comments?
I'd like to make a motion that we put this back out for bid and see if we can get anything else to, compare it to. I know the bids came in late Thursday, and I don't ever feel like we have to rush to put something on the agenda to keep the project in line and on schedule. I think, we're looking for a good quality project that's under budget and are close to budget. And with one price to look at and the previous track record that I'm familiar with that we've had with this contract, I just don't feel comfortable with it. So that's my motion on the floor.
Second.
First and second.
I have a question. How long would it take to rebid it?
We typically bid these for 30 days at least. I don't know that we would have to bid it for 30 days this time. We could probably bid it for another 2 weeks. Put another 2 weeks on it.
You still need a pre-bid meeting.
Yeah, we still need another pre-bid meeting. That's right.
And I guess the other thing that, and listening to the conversation, you said there was one contractor that was gonna bid it, he just couldn't put his numbers together in time. Maybe this will give him a little bit more time to put his numbers together, and that'll give you something else to compare it to.
My question, and my comment would be, maybe talk about the timeline of the other projects that are out there.
Sure.
What
So,
does that do?
we did move this schedule up for this project in order to time it with the pedestrian plaza, specifically with the brewery project that's ongoing. It's currently under construction. As part of that development agreement, that we would provide that public space. We were trying to match that as closely as possible. Does it have to be open when the brewery's open? No, but we were trying to be cognizant of their schedule as well.
Now, the one bid that they just couldn't, they had too much work on, I guess, from big projects to small projects, like getting your kitchen painted. It's hard to find people to do work now because of the booming economy. So would you think that, and I guess Andrea, Lucretia, would you think that we would get the same bidders or more bidders if we did it?
That's always a risk you take. We got one bidder this time. They could withdraw. They may get a big project here coming up because they didn't get this one and move on to something else. There's no guarantee that any of the folks who were interested would be interested still. So there are risks you take.
Thank you, Mayor. I definitely understand the concerns of some of my fellow council members, and I guess I'd be most hesitant to delay this just because of the timing. I know we have a lot of other projects going on, and so that's a concern. There's also the concern of there's no guarantee that the bids will come in lower. Construction the way it is right now. I mean, people obviously, this is out in public now what this bid was. I mean, there's no guarantee that it comes in the same price or lower. There's a possibility we don't have anybody who bid. That'd be my kind of concern for delaying this. That being said, I fully understand why, there are concerns, and I would definitely always like to see more bidders, but I know sometimes that's the nature of the beast. We don't always get what we desire.
Questions, comments? First, I'll come back. Jeff?
It was done.
John?
So because of that, I think what would be appropriate too is to go back to Davis and Floyd and give some alternate deducts, not alternate ads, but alternate deducts to see if we can't get it. So that way it's kind of a little fresh new bid. It's not exact to what it is right now, but the deducts may be material changes or method changes or something else that would maybe affect the overall bids that we get back.
Mayor Pro Tem and then Mr. Roberts. John?
The question I have is to the staff. It sort of goes along with what Mayor Roberts said. What does the staff think about redoing or having the bids redone again? What is your feeling concerning that?
We're happy to rebid the project if that's what council
Well,
wants
what I'm
to do.
asking is, do you think we'll get the same results, better results, or worse results?
It's really hard to say. It really is. Especially the way projects are going now, and how many projects are out there and starting, and how few contractors there are relatively. It's hard to venture a guess. I would be worried seriously about getting another contractor on board to do the project. I don't know that this would happen, but AOS could very reasonably back out the second time around and withdraw the bid.
And that's what I was going to echo on. One thing I've seen this happen before, where they say, "Hey, this was our price. Now everybody knows our price, and we priced in our, we priced the job, and so everybody else knowing our price, they just withdraw or don't put it again." I've seen that occur before. So I mean, there's risk to it. There's benefit to it. Obviously, it goes both ways. The risk is, you got the issues are timeline. Risk is, inflationary costs continues to increase, which is a possibility as people are really starting to reconsider their pricing on commodities ongoing right now, especially your bigger companies. And then again, just do you get any other bidders? So there's definitely risk there with it, but then obviously, you know, to y'all's point, I mean, there's benefit as well. You know, certainly if you were to get more bidders or some other ones, they get a second look at this and say, hey, you know, I want to put in this time, and maybe they have it works for their time constraints this time.
Mr. Roberts, John?
Couple of things. One, I understand both sides of that coin, and I think it is I wish we weren't in this position. But with regard to timing, does this contract do we have a final date, completion date in the contract?
We do. Well, we will, yes, we will.
With penalty?
With liquidated damages, correct.
Because the last thing we want to do is end up in a situation where we're bent over barrel one way or the other, and then we're held out 2 or 3 months. Because we see it happen. So I do want to see that. With regard to the value-added changes Mr. Chapman talked about, I mean, is that something y'all will get with Davis and Floyd? And present, I mean, what we're going to...
Well, so we can do a couple different ways. If council would like us to move forward with AOS, you can set an amount, a maximum amount, and we can get with Davis and Floyd and the contractor and find items to deduct from the contract amount that get us to that amount, or get us to that maximum amount. Another way to do it, if you'd like to rebid the project, we can come up with a menu of items that the contractor calls out specifically, and line items. Then if the whole project is over budget, we can then deduct those line items.
I got one more angle. And Lucretia may know the detail of this. How good was the bid for?
Say that again.
So the bid itself, or Andrew, you know, the bid itself, usually they put in there is they honor this bid amount for a certain period of time. It's usually 30 days or so, 25 days.
I want to say this was 10 days. Was it 20 days?
I don't remember it being.
Well, my angle was this,
Or-
simply my angle was this, is knowing that how, you know, rebidding a project is an extensive, I mean, we would do, again, pre-bid meetings, so you want to put it out, you want to advertise it, go through the whole process again, it's an extensive time frame. You know, there'd be an opportunity here from a different angle, to actually continue this item, not vote on it tonight, allow us to get with, Davis and Floyd, look at some of those alternatives, fill you in on that. Also get some additional information on their subs specifically, and then also we can take a detailed look at their pricing if you would like us to do that. That's one angle. So I guess you got really 3 options. You know, obviously approve the bid, rebid, or continue it, and we talk more with them, look at value engineering. Maybe they change some of their prices and they have the opportunity to do that. You can, once they bid and it's open, you can negotiate the bid. So there's opportunity for that. We'll see how bad, you know, they want the contract. So that's, you really have 3 choices.
We've got a lot of choices. A lot of people said a lot of things, and I like the tone of it. I mean, just keep in mind that we're a little bit over 10% over budget, of an estimated budget, right? And so to Mr. Chapman's point and Mr. Roberts' point, you know, if we can get some value engineering that cuts that to in half, for example. Dr. Thompson said many times, I think you just said it, cheaper is not always better.
38.
But there's a motion on the floor to delay the process.
I got one more comment, Mayor.
In a second. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, if it was, you know, the brewery, I know that, you know, we're trying to, or any business downtown that's trying to redevelop, and they have a budget in place using private dollars. And for whatever reason, whoever they're hiring, it comes in over budget, they're gonna sit back and they're gonna pause for a minute, because it's their money coming out of their pocket. And to me, it's the same way here, even though we're using hospitality funds, these are the city's taxpayers' dollars. And so I think we just need to really take a close look at it and keep that in mind, and, you know, not to rush things. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to amending my motion to allow staff to get with Davis and Floyd to see what we can do to do some value engineering to keep everything on place, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we're just being good stewards of the dollars here, not just to get a project done, because if you was in the private sector, they would look at it the same way.
I agree. So basically that's choice 3, right? So with 3, what I would want to do
Third
is
choice.
focus on the list of subs,
It's third
value engineering opportunities and negotiation opportunities. Because at this point, like I said, you're able to negotiate now that the bid has been presented to you guys. It's been open. We have one bidder. They're the finalists, and we can negotiate. So we can have a time frame where we do that and see how that goes. It could go either way. You know, it might go a different direction, and we come back to you and say, hey, let's rebid the project, or at the next council meeting, or we say, hey, you know, things went well, negotiations went well, there was some good value engineering, quality subs, that additional information to you, and you can make the choice in 2 weeks. Put things 2 weeks.
That's option number 3, right?
As I presented, yes, ma'am.
Understood. You know, I guess, keep everything on schedule. If the staff could get with Davis and Floyd, and we can get the project back in budget, you know, I would say, move forward with the contract and not having to wait 2 weeks to come back and say, hey, we was able to get it under budget, now we're waiting, you know, that's 2 weeks. If you can get that done in the next 7 to 10 days and negotiate it, move forward. But if you can't get it, then you would come back to us and then say, hey, we tried it, it wouldn't work, now y'all want to rebid it, you know?
I'll tell you, in addition to that, we would send you via email additional information on it that we receive.
Mr. Mayor, if I add one more thing.
Sure.
One thing that want to make sure that when you go back to value engineering, don't do value engineering deducts, like say, we're not going to do the landscaping.
Right.
As a pullout, because you know you got to do the landscaping, but more a choice of that it may be a detail that changes the project a little bit, but most people aren't going to notice, and that's what reduces the cost, not a actual deduct of something like that.
Sure.
So just us to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've already got a couple of ideas.
Okay.
And we actually were able to do some of that on this facility here. It came out, you know, same.
So I'll withdraw my second and.
Yeah. I'd like to amend my motion to say, allow the staff to work with Davis and Floyd to look at value engineering, to see if we can bring the project back into budget, and that'll be my motion.
Well, and then also clarity on that. So because one thing you mentioned, Mr. Stewart, is if we weren't able to do that schedule-wise and send the additional information out to you, then we can move on with the project. So doing that, would you be willing to say with that motion that you'd be willing to approve the budget amount within a range of the budget amount, or with a range of, you know, plus 100,000 or something like that? If we can get within that range, you would approve the contractor, and then we wouldn't bring it back to council, but we would send you the additional information. And maybe none of them may not work out. We may be back here, you know, talking about rebidding it at the next meeting. I may have.
I don't know if I want to put, I don't know what that dollar figure would be, because kind of like Councilman Chapman said, we're starting out over budget, and then always on every project, there's a change order that tallies it, so now we're back to square one where we're already at. I would say if we're able to bring it back to budget,
okay,
then we would move forward, and.
I would probably say though, probably over the last 2, 3, 4 years, we've been very good at not having to come back here with major change orders. Now, I don't know if that's because of the wonderful leadership of David McEwen and all those other employees, but I just make that point, I just cannot.
Yeah.
I don't, Don, you might be looking, Miss B, Rick, I don't know if we've ever did this before on a bid. I don't know if we ever had just one bid.
We
didn't have a choice.
We have one recently.
Yeah, I mean, I've negotiated bids like this before. You know, when you have one like this, and then you go back to them.
We had one bid on the Murray Avenue drainage project.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, because nobody else really wanted to do it.
Right. But that was an emergency project that was a little bit different than a. you know.
Yeah,
and
a complicated project.
Very, very
But
complicated.
I'll second Mr. Stewart's motion.
I want to make sure I understand.
The motion is that, staff will go back and work with Davison Floyd to try to bring the project back in the budget, and we're able to accomplish that, and we'll move forward with the contract,
With AOS, specialty contract.
with AOS specialty contract.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mr. Chapman, you second?
Yes, sir.
I have one final question. When we had several issues with maybe substandard work with AOS, their subcontractors, is that corrected to our satisfaction?
Yes.
It was. We actually hired a Davidson Floyd concrete specialist that.
Was that the basketball court too?
Right. It was.
At their expense or our expense?
So actually, it was at their expense, and so we
Came back and
observed
did it.
all aspects of the work and then tested the work, and it came back to our satisfaction.
Any other comments,
Yeah.
questions?
Okay, thank you.
You good?
No, I'm good.
Anybody else?
Like to certainly continue on with the time, dedicated timeline there.
I think that's important. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last item of new business is request consideration of a sewer line and manhole rehab contract to be performed on North Main Street at Charlton Street, ending at East Calhoun Street and North Macdonald Street. Mr. Pugh?
Okay, there's twofold goals out of this, and one is, of course, anytime we're in the area and we're going to do a project, we also want to look at our current infrastructure in the ground, the timing of that. Is there an opportunity to improve it? The second, though, is that we also, as you know, we have a very methodical process of examining the sewer collection lines. And so through an identification of the sewer collection lines, there was some deficiency that was found. And so I'm going to actually have Art Garrison, who's our wastewater programs manager, go into some of that detail with you, and also talk about the process to repair that we're proposing and the bid itself. Mr. Garrison.
All right, thank you, David. Basically what this is, we put it out to bid a while back ago, and basically it's considered a rehabilitation project that will correct problems with the sewer line versus the open cut replacement. This particular line is similar to a CIPP curled in place pipe replacement. Vortex, who actually won the bid, they use a geopolymer that is sprayed into the sewer line and the manholes and creates a barrier completely sealing out infiltration and restores structural integrity to that particular line. This product is essentially a synthetic stone, which essentially corrosion, it keeps away corrosion and abrasive resistant property. So this is what we're looking at now to do.
Thank you, sir. Comments?
Mr. Mayor.
We do this a lot of times, I think, when we're creating havoc and tearing things up, to take a look at it.
Yes.
Yeah, so, we're always examining 10% of our system every year, and so we do that
Gotcha.
with the robotic equipment and so forth. And so this adds into that 10% that we do, but it was a good time to do it and look at the process while we're doing the North Main area streetscape.
Makes sense, Mr. Chapman?
Can you tell us about the warranties and for this system?
I'm sorry.
The warranties for this
Warranties?
system?
As far as the longevity, the life expectancy is 50 plus years on it. That they actually come to us and tell us that, this.
We have a written warranty for 50 years. We don't have to mess with that line.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a strong substance.
Excellent.
Any other questions, comments?
That's a good deal.
Yep.
50 years.
Aging infrastructure.
And it creates you from, actually doing the other method would be dig and replace the entire roadway. And so then all those costs associated with that and issues versus this method, which has just become more and more popular over really the last 5-10 years.
Have we had any experience with Vortex and this particular product? Have we had any experience with Vortex and this?
We, certainly as a city, have not. Most of their company's based out of Florida, so the people who we went and talked to were from Florida, which had 3,000 feet of line done. So they've got a company also in North Carolina, which that's where they're coming from doing this. But as far as us as a city, we have not.
So we spoke with other municipalities, use the same methodology, and,
We've used it here, and also my previous cities have used it frequently. And we had very good results.
Any other questions?
Mayor, I make a motion, we move forward.
Have first by Mr. John Roberts.
Second.
Second by the Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Not having any more new business, I entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. First by Mr. Duty, second by Mr. Roberts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Please stand.